Um, okay, question one. How long have you been in the military? What's your current job in the Marines?
So I've been in the Marine Corps for about 3.5 years now, a little over. And my current job now is infantry slash like SUAS operator. So yeah, fly drones and that type of thing.
Do you think that people look at you differently if you seek mental health support in the military?
Oh yeah, 100%. But
Do they
yeah,
treat you differently? Do they like, do your
yeah.
higher ups treat you differently?
Oh yeah, that just looks like you quit and trying to get out of a contract.
So it makes you not want to seek support or no? Like, do you,
No, yeah, no.
okay.
Because it like if you take it up. So you're like, oh, I don't feel good about my life or whatever. Well, now they're like, the military looks at you as like, this guy's a liability. So he's not going to get his gun. Now you can't go do your job. And then it's just like the whole thing. So that's like the main reason why yeah, no one goes.
Do you feel like people only seek support when it's super serious, like their life's at stake, or do they go sooner than that?
No, they're going to kill themselves. They're not going to go seek
They don't
support.
go when it's just like
No,
anxiety or something.
no.
Okay.
I mean,
Do
I
you
shouldn't
know?
be laughing, but it's like yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting. Would you say the majority of people in the Marines are struggling with mental health stuff? Or what
Yeah,
would
probably
like
to
what
a point.
percentage would you estimate?
Um, like, ooh, I don't know. Probably like 60%. And then you just don't know. You really don't know.
Yeah. And
No one's
how
gonna say
many
anything.
would you guess out of this estimated 60, how many of those do you think are getting help?
Oh, none. I mean, maybe
None.
one season two. Yeah, no. I mean, you can, but it's like not a, not a, I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, it's just like the command's like, oh, why are you going here? And then you have to bring it up and talk. I don't know. It's just like not a good, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably very few. I mean, and also a lot of people don't say they're going to go talk to, their therapist or whatever. So like, I don't really know. I'm sure I have friends
Yeah.
that are going right now that I don't know about.
Yeah.
But
Okay. That makes sense. Are mental health check-ins a regular part of your service experience or done only in certain situations?
no, they're done like every time. Well, I mean, yes, but no. It's like, are you going to hurt someone? Are you going to hurt yourself? Like, it's called a PHA. It's like your annual checkup. Like, how much do you drink? X, Y, and Z. So like, yes, they're asking you the question, but they're not. I don't know. It's like
It's
a very,
not,
yeah,
it's kind of surface level.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. How do your fellow Marines or superiors view mental health issues? Is there any stigma around asking for help?
Mm, I mean, yeah, I would say there's a stigma, but they view mental. So I don't think the command doesn't really care if someone kills themselves, but they do get pissed off when they have to teach a class about mental health. You know what I mean? Or like that's from my point of view. Like they're like, oh, it's just more paperwork, more bullshit to deal with. Like that's how they. Well, it sounds bad, but you're so replaceable in the military that it's like I don't know. Like it's normal to us, but like it's I don't know how to explain it. It's just more shit on their plate that they don't want to deal with. So it's like I don't. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not.
Interesting.
I mean, yeah, it's like it sounds bad, but like yeah, everyone's just got their whole life going on, and then boom, some bad shit happens, or someone kills themselves, and it comes out of left field every time. So I mean, you expect it, but you don't. You expect. I don't know. Yeah.
Is it something that's talked about very much, like in your day to day, or no?
Yeah. Like, I mean, we joke about it like a lot, but like, and then someone actually does it, you're like, oh, fuck, dude. Like, I don't know. Yeah, and then it's sad, but I don't know. You can't. Yeah, you have no idea what's going. Or if someone's gonna do it, they're gonna do it. You can't stop them. Or you can, I guess, but you can't. I don't know.
Mm.
It's yeah, it's just shitty. Pretty shitty.
Yeah. Did you ever feel that seeking mental health support might hurt your career or reputation in the Marines?
Yeah, I did it anyways. I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I'm not dumb. I'm not gonna do something dumb and like I don't know. Also, I'm older, so I feel like less I have more perspective than like a lot of some dude that's like 18 years old, like first time away from home. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But
Have
like,
you, oh, go ahead.
yeah. But I don't know. I would just say like, yeah, to like an 18-year old, it's like I feel like they don't fully they haven't I mean, some guys have been through a lot of shit, but other guys haven't. And they're like, this is their first experience in life, you know? So they're like, oh, fuck. But
Have you ever felt let down by the system, like you weren't heard, believed, or prioritized?
yeah, 100%. Like, I think everyone would say that. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
no.
if you stopped seeking help at any point, what caused you to step away from it?
I just don't really think it works. Like, I think the idea of it's awesome, but I just think it's just like the people, and I'm not trying to like bash on the people that do the services and stuff like that, but they're just like, they have so many bodies to take care of and like so many, like, I don't know. And you know how it is. Like you have to find a good fit if you want like a good therapist. It's like kind of one of those things. The military just can't facilitate that, in my opinion. But maybe I'm wrong.
Do they not have enough people, or it's just the people they choose just aren't
I
right,
think
do
they're
you think?
good. I think like they're good for the right person. You know what I mean? Um,
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah, like but yeah, no, I think they're definitely like worth their. They know their stuff and they've been doing it for a long time, stuff like that. And I'm sure they've helped a ton of people, but um, yeah.
Do you feel like there's enough people that are therapists and helping, or no?
No, and there's like a very gray area on like technically they can't there's all this weird stuff like they can't come to the barracks. They can tell you where their office is, but they can't really like check in with it's like I don't really know the legality or the law behind it, but it's definitely like a separated entity from like our union, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like the chaplain's a part of us for sure, but like if you go talk to they're like a third party kind of system.
interesting. But and there's not enough people, you don't think?
I mean, I'm sure they're like, I, yeah, I feel like they're always booked out or whatever. It's like if you really need the help, you go down there and they're like, oh, I have an appointment 2 weeks out or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like,
So you
or
can't
three
get an
weeks out.
appointment right away. It's
No.
like a couple weeks.
Yeah, it'd be like, I mean, maybe if there was an availability, they could squeeze you in, but yeah, it'd be like 2 weeks. And you get one for like, I think it's 45 minutes, an hour, which is good. I mean, it's good, but like if you actually need help or whatever, it's like, yeah.
What does good, quote, good mental health support look like to you, and have you ever experienced it?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Um, I don't think I've experienced it, but I
Okay.
don't know what I think I don't know what it looks like because I haven't seen it. Like,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I don't think you'll find that in the Marine Corps, but yeah, I don't know because of a lot of it is just like they try to act like they care, but they don't care. I don't know.
Mm.
Mm, but yeah, no, and it's also different too because like for instance, you could be the same dude. You could be me in a different company or a different unit on base and have a totally different outlook on it. Like it really depends on like your leadership, like who's in charge of you, and like so like these this is like from my point of view, but like for every like different person in a like a different job could be totally different, like way better, way worse. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like it, I mean, I'm sure you hear it across the board, like online, it's similar, but like it, some guys have like absolutely love their job and like they want to stay in 20 years and be a drill instructor. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah. It really
it just
varies.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
I've met a handful of those guys, not many, but good mental health support. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. It's okay
I
if
don't
you
really
can't
know.
answer it.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
No
Yeah.
worries. Um, this is a similar question. So you also, if you don't have an answer, no worries.
Yeah.
But what programs or resources, if any, have made the biggest positive difference for you?
What programs? Um, I'm trying to think. I know they have like the single Marine program where it's complete trash, but they claim they go do cool stuff once in a while. That's cool. Um, Vet Tix is not, it's kind of military related, but you get like free tickets to like baseball games and like random events in SoCal, which is like really cool. So I've used that like quite a bit. And
Hmm.
I feel like that's like a good way to change the channel. But it's not really Marine Corps related. Um,
Okay.
a lot of it's like third party stuff, just like go do something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Get out of your day-to-day life and
Yeah.
yeah.
And then
Okay.
probably just like the people you're around. I think that's like the best resources you have, you know what I mean, to go say
Yeah.
what's up to your homies and stuff like that.
Yeah. That
But
makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Last three questions. I think you've already answered this, but we'll ask it again anyways. How accessible are the mental health services? Are there wait lists, limitations, or eligibility criteria that make access harder?
um how accessible? I think semi they're very accessible. So you can go at any point to these people. But there is like you know what I mean? Like you gotta tell people in your chain of command stuff what you're doing. Are
Mm.
there wait lists? Yeah, there's like depending on like what their schedule looks like, it's like a week or two, I would say. Like the chaplain you can talk to at all times. Um, like if you say you're going to go kill yourself, well, the corpsman's going to get involved and they're going to bring you to like a 72 hour hold, something like that. Um,
And it's
and
really once
then
things get serious. It's not like
yeah,
before that people seek help.
yeah, yeah. So and that's like a kind of I mean, they'll kick you out of the Marine Corps like very soon after you do that. So like, because it's a bad look on the Marine Corps if like the public, which the public doesn't know anything what goes on here, but it that's how the Marine Corps sees it. It's like, oh, we got to get this. He's a liability. Let's get him out of here so we don't have the name. You know what I mean? Like, or that's how they see it from my point of view. But
Do you think they kind of try and keep people's mental health problems or people that have done things like quiet
oh yeah,
so they don't get a bad reputation?
yeah, I would say so. I mean, when you get out, I mean, you talk to any like vet that has done some wild stuff. Like they just the VA, you go to the VA and they just feed you a million pills, like straight up. Like there's no like fixing the problem. It's like, all right, take like 72,000 pills and it'll just like you just they turn you into a zombie from what I've seen.
Hmm.
But I mean, maybe certain people have different takes on that. But like, yeah, I've seen a lot of dudes get out of the military and they're not right in the head, so they go to the VA, and then it's just like a downward spiral real hard. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah, but I would say that yeah, wait list limitations, eligible criteria makes you sick. Yeah, no, I think that's about it for that one.
Okay.
Um,
If you could speak directly to the leaders in the military, what would you ask them to do differently, if anything?
um, if anything, um, Wow. I would tell them to give the sergeants and squad leaders and like team leaders like more power and more time to do what they need to do and go train. Like training is like not priority, and because we were sitting around doing like dumb rosters and stuff, people are like getting depressed instead of going like training. I don't know. Like keeping the dudes more busy um, is the main thing I would say. Like um, yeah, like you'll have some officer that comes out of OCS or whatever. He's a complete idiot and he's in charge and he acts like he knows more than like some of these like very senior, like really good dudes. And I'm like, they don't know what they're doing and they're trying to act like they do, and I get it. But and then you end up learning a lot of like not dumb stuff, but just there's better ways to go about it. And I feel like um keeping the guys busier and letting them kind of like take a little more control over their life and like stuff like that
Yeah,
in the work aspect would make people's mental health a little better because they're
yeah,
like, oh, we're making a difference. We're actually trained. I don't know. You got to hit certain wickets and like certain things. I get it, but I think that would help dudes. And what else? Um, I don't really know. I don't really know how you could change because it's so like the Marine Corps is such a massive like or it's not even massive, but like the army, like across the board, it's such a big like entity. I don't really know how you could change it or like improve the system. I know it's flawed, but I don't really have an answer of like how to go about it.
this is the last question.
Okay.
Do you think there is currently enough resources for mental health support in the military? Why or why not?
I don't think so, but even if you had like millions of dollars like loaded into this, the guys would still not go, if that makes sense. So it kind of just like I don't know.
Why do you think that is? Like, why don't they want to go?
Just a bad. That's probably the stigma, and like it's just yeah, it's a bad look. I feel like, or not. It isn't, but it is. I don't know how to explain it.
Mhm.
I don't believe so, but a lot of other people definitely do believe so. So then you just don't end up going.
Mm.
But I would way rather see one of my boys go to like some mental health stuff than blows that off. You know what I mean? But like it's
Mm,
just how the Marine Corps it is just the culture I think around it. You know,
that
but
makes sense. Well, thank you.
not a
Um,
problem.
So yeah, first question I guess is just can you just tell us a little bit about your role with adult and veteran services and just kind of what you guys do to help veterans out in the long run?
Yeah. So I'm the associate director here in the Adult Learner and Veteran Services office, and I've been in this role for 10 years. Um, and we actually kind of do, or we're pretty unique as far as having a joint space. A lot of college campuses have a veteran-only center, which tends to take a group of students that feel isolated and isolates them more. So we're kind of really unique in having a joint space of adult learners and veterans. We talk a lot about like a lot of our students are student parents, have other identities as well. And so that really especially benefits the veterans in helping their transition to civilian culture. So we find and really think our model is obviously we think it's successful and sort of groundbreaking, or was, at least 10 years ago. Now I would say a lot more schools are kind of open to more of that idea and making veterans more connected into campus and the community. Nationwide, even we do a lot of stuff with Student Veterans of America, and we see that trend. So what we do is we just work with all our students and helping them transition into school, succeed while they're in school, and then transition out. So we do that from like day one. We get the admit list. We're calling students to let them know about our program. We do our own orientation for our students. We do summer meetups to start building community. I should back up and start with, we also call our model the value add model. So when I got into this work, a lot of people were focusing on sort of all the problems, especially student veterans. They were like, they're all going to have traumatic brain injuries or post-traumatic stress disorder, and really kind of this negative view. So we kind of flip that and we call it our value add model. So we always meet students where they're at, get them the resources they need, but we really focus one on helping students see the value they bring to campus. They have prior life experience. They often have prior leadership experience. Um, and then we also then work with campus staff and faculty and the community to see the value that our students bring to campus and why they're so important. So we have about 3,000 students in undergrad, and about 700 of those are veterans, 800, that varies, and then a couple hundred other people are using benefits because like their parents are veterans. But and our students tend to be awesome. If you look at the outstanding graduates of just this past last week, they posted it. 7 out of the 10 students they highlighted from each college were adult learners or student parents or student veterans. Um, so we sort of joke that like the way to have student success is just to have a lot going on in your life. So you have to focus, because that's really kind of, but a lot of our students come in more focused, more driven, their own time and money they're spending. So they are looking to get a little more out of it, kind of a thing. But so from that value add model, our two core values that we always talk about are community and engagement. We know the more students have community on campus, and are engaged, whether in a club or in an internship, the more successful they'll be in those traditional metrics of like persistence, retention, and graduation. Um, so we do everything kind of connected to that value add model and those two values. So we do our own orientations as part of like transport orientation. We have a summer, like I said, summer meetups to build community. We then have a summer bridge program. If you're familiar with Upward Bound, as part of TRIO programs, we do something similar, but for our students. We are part of Around Welcome. We then joke that our space is our largest program. We have 8,000 square foot space in Laurie Student Center. We used to have a smaller space where off-campus life is, that it's about 2,000 square feet. And a couple years ago, we went before the Student Fee Review Board and asked for more money. Like we proved our model, talked about the value add idea, and they raised their fees and paid for our new space. So we're actually 100% student fee funded, so anyone can use our space. And it's really great because it shows the support across campus for our students, from the non-traditional, from the traditional age students. So sometimes if that traditional age student is driving one of our students crazy in class or in a group project, we can remind them that they're paying for our space. You know? So we have this space that we use just to have a place for students to have a home base, since our students don't live on campus. So we have free coffee all day long. We have refrigerators, microwaves. We have a food pantry that the main, a pocket pantry that the main food pantry supplies. We have printing. We have a quiet room. We have study rooms. So then we have peer advisors who are current students who can help students navigate like how to register for class or how to use Ramlink or where to get a beer in town, whatever it is. And they also do regular programming. So we do like student parent meetups. Every Thursday they used to call it creative de-stress. Now they call it coffee and crafts. So they just, one week it's doing origami, one week it's working with clay, just kind of a hangout. They do food pantry runs. One of our students who's into horticulture started at CSU, something under the sun. So to get people out walking to different places on campus. So they come up with programming that we do. We have a student that does, every Friday afternoon they do tabletop games. So it's either D&D or a different board game. Like every other week they switch. Then we do sort of larger, semester seminars, like how to write a scholarship essay, how to do a professional judgment with financial aid, how do we like to do anything with food to bribe students to come, and also like alliteration. So in the fall we do pancakes and planning. So at the very beginning of the semester we're like, bring your syllabi. We have the assistive technology department come talk about the different apps you can use to help you organize. In the spring or just January, we call that soup and syllabi. So just lots of different programs like that. We have the career center in here every other week, and they do things on like how to negotiate your salary, like do you want to go to grad school? We have a success librarian in here every week. We have a veteran service officer from Larimer County every other Tuesday. We have a VA caseworker in here every Thursday. Then we have tutoring, we have scholarships. We run the Ram Kids Village program in the library. So student parents have to stay in the library, but they can drop their kiddos off on Saturdays and Sundays from 9 to 5 or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 3 to 7. So it's a great resource. It's totally free for student parents. So if someone's a student parent and they have a group project, they could be like, hey, let's meet in the library, 1 o'clock Saturday. And then they have their kiddo, they can drop off to do educational activities with our staff. And what's neat about that program is it's mostly run completely by traditional age students who want to work with kids, and it gives them a great opportunity to build skills around, like, they actually manage the program. There's like co-managers and assistant managers, and they develop curriculum to work with kids, and it gives them a lot of great experience, and it also bridges that gap for traditional age students to know about our student population. So I think that is, oh, and then we do large scale events like tailgates, and we do student parent week. We just did that with like a bring your kid to campus day. We do Veterans Week stuff. We do a big tailgate. We did a military and veteran appreciation ball, which our students call adult prom. So we just try to do lots of different programming to connect students in. And all our programming, we welcome family members, partners, friends, kids. If that's the way it's going to get you to come to the event, they're welcome to come. Because we know sometimes, like, you don't want to go to something alone when you're new or it's unfamiliar kind of a thing. So
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you guys just got like so many resources and stuff. And yeah, I mean, there's still kind of almost a mental health crisis. I don't know if that's the right word, but
well, actually, I would say, funny enough, especially in northern Colorado, we actually have a ton of resources.
Mhm.
So the crisis comes in more, less to do with the veteran identity and more, I would say, to do with sort of stereotypically being young men, right? I think the crisis is really more, I think, around young men and the way they're taught not to ask for help, not to reach out. And then what happens with the veteran group is they tend to be a larger percentage of that, because we see less and less students. Obviously, there's not a theater of war anymore, so they're not experiencing some of that, the combat stress or the moral injury piece. Um, and obviously that's a thing. And then in Northern Colorado, though, we have, for instance, the Vital program is on campus, which basically provides mental health and the health network led by from the VA. There's obviously the health network, there's the vet center, there's the vet clinic. So there's actually a lot of resources. Then anything you are interested in doing, like if you're a veteran interested in hiking, there's groups for that. If you're a vet who wants to do fly fishing, if you're a vet who wants to go hunting, if you're a veteran who wants to do whitewater rafting, like there are thousands of groups to create community. So it's really more, it's not that there's a lack of those resources, it's just how to get young men traditionally to ask for help or engage with those resources type
Oh,
of thing.
yeah, and I mean, that's part of the thing. Do you think it's like a stigma around mental health, just not just in veteran communities, but like among young men, as you were saying? Is there like a stigma from
Some,
themselves
and
or?
even that, yeah, and that it's been interesting to watch because even that's changed. I would say I've been here 10 years, and now our students, all of them, male, female, constantly talk about, oh, I saw my therapist, you should go to therapy, I have this diagnosis, I'm on this medication. Like it's nice to see how much people are more, there's less stigma, but I think there's still some stigma. So there still are plenty of people who are not getting the help they need, or they think like, I can tough it out, I can do it on my own. Um, which is really hard to watch because you're like I said, especially in our community, there's so many resources and people who want to help. So it's really kind of looking more into like, what is that? Why is that still a barrier? Like, is it stigma? Is it that people don't even know where they feel overwhelmed where to start? Like, what would be, I don't know if we know it well enough exactly what the reason is totally, but
For sure. And I mean, just kind of switching views here. I know you guys have a lot of just accessible resources, but from what we've kind of looked into just in other parts of the country and whatnot, it's kind of harder. Um, there's barriers for veterans to get involved with these things, whether it's funding or just, their location. Kind of what is the situation with funding and, veteran resources like the VA and whatnot? Kind of, is there a situation there?
well, I mean, supposedly by August, they're cutting 80,000 employees at the VA. So if that does happen, there will be impact, obviously, as far as services just there has to be at some point. Um, I do think that the hiccup for some people, yeah, I mean, there's always funding. It sometimes depends where you are. So, for instance, we're unique in that we're not that close. We don't have a military base in town, and yet we still have a really large veteran population and a really large, say, veteran population at our university. So, for instance, in Colorado Springs, where there's several bases in the proximity, they have maybe, probably different supports, but sometimes that can create everyone fighting for the same resources rather than, so there's pros and cons. I think where people get hung up sometimes is, and we talked to a lot of our students about this, is that they'll be like, I'm a veteran, so I can only use veteran specific resources, when they forget actually you can use any resource, right? If you're a veteran and you need mental health services, you could go to your local community mental health, or, they have like, what's the app, Better Health, that's nationwide and provides services. Like, that's where we see sometimes people get really stuck, is they think, for instance, I can only do something veteran specific, and that really limits them, rather than most people who are therapists are trained to work with people of variety identities. That's my background. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. And so you can work, like how to connect across differences is actually really helping anybody, but especially a veteran, be the most successful. Because if you can navigate, I'm a veteran, I'm a student parent, I'm a son, I'm like a religious, and they may be a member of a religious community. Like if you can navigate all those, I'm a hiker or whatever, rather than I'm only a veteran, that's the only way I can connect to resources. That's really when it becomes limiting, because then people are like, oh, there's no veteran resources in town, and it's like, well, that doesn't mean there aren't resources, right? So sometimes that's how you look at it in
Right.
that way,
For
but there
sure.
are a lot more. I mean, for a while, I think there's still like the VA does do like some crisis line stuff and nationwide things for the specific reason of especially rural communities that having more telehealth options and things like that.
Yeah. What's kind of one way where non-veteran students or just the broader community in general could like be more involved to help get, whether it's veterans or just young men, like you were saying, what could they be doing to encourage people to get the mental health they need, or just, kind of encouraging that stuff?
Yeah, I think talking openly about, if people are young men, like, hey, this has been helpful, or I asked for help, and I think sort of demystifying that, and making that very normalized, and that I think it's really helping people see often what they liked a lot about the military was that intense community, was that feeling of belonging and connection, and then helping people see people want to connect with you outside of the military, and they don't have to have been in the military for you to find connection, right? And it's that same idea. It's like helping you see like that was a beautiful thing, and how can you create that in every part of your life? Like everyone wants and deserves to have deep connections in their family life, in their work life, in their friend groups, right? And how to help people see and create that. Because I think that's where sometimes we just assume like, oh, everyone knows how to do that. Like we just had for Ram Welcome in January, we had a professor who studies friendship. She did a presentation on how to make friends as an adult, right? Like I think we just, like you forget that you aren't in school, like you're not, 7 anymore in the playground where you're like, hey, I saw you go down the slide and you want to be best friends, right? Like, and so I think we all kind of cut ourselves off sometimes from those deep connections. And I think that that's sometimes what some veterans struggle a lot with, is that they had this really deep sense of belonging and purpose in the military. And then they get out and they don't kind of know how to recreate that. And they don't necessarily then ask for help of like, hey, I'm feeling without purpose and I don't have community. And so the stark contrast is what feels really unmooring and like, can be really destructive, right? And then on top of it, in the community of veterans tends to be a high percentage of people who have own weapons and then drink a lot, right? And so that also tends to be a very lethal, combination that, in some of the students we've had who have, completed suicide, it was like one brief moment, right? There where they had access to weapons and they were drinking alcohol heavily. So, right, like that's where like also sometimes we do a lot of talking about that. Like, how are you coping? What are the positive coping ways? Is this the most helpful? Like, so I think it's like talking about any of those things rather than avoiding talking about it because you don't want to make someone think about suicide, right? So just being very upfront about like, there are options and people who want to work with. You. So.
Yeah. I guess just the last one here is where did I have it? Yeah, what's just one message you wish everyone understood about veterans' mental health, and just any resources you would recommend to those struggling?
I mean, I think for knowing about veterans' mental health is that it's not really all that different from civilian mental health, right? Like, it's just that lots of us struggle and we have different things going on, and it's hard when you feel that way about yourself to think you deserve help or that there is help for you. And so I think it's making sure people don't see that as a barrier, like, oh, they're a veteran, I won't understand, I can't reach out or I can't help them. It's like, still reach out. Like, and if anything, that's a great thing to ask about. Like, tell me about your veteran service. Like, I don't know that much about it. Like, like I want to learn, right? And then that way too, they can see that they have things to learn from you. So I think it's just taking that risk and reaching out, on all sides. And then I think just know that there are thousands of resources out there. And that if you want to be involved in the VA, lots of resources. If you want nothing to do with the VA, there's also lots of resources, and you just need to ask someone for help. And there's so many people who want to help you, especially in our community. I can speak most to that. Like, we're quite lucky in that way. But
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think you nailed all my questions here.
When did you get recruited or join the military?
I was recruited in 19 around September of 1981, and I went into boot camp in December of 1981.
Okay. And what branch of the military were you in?
United States Navy.
Okay. And so now going into it, if you could advocate for military personnel and or veterans in some way, how would you do it?
Is that, I think they've really improved on what I had when I went in there for when you got out for college reimbursement and stuff. They didn't have a very good program. So I would definitely two things would be a better, which they may have now, I don't know, but a better um, college reimbursement where the military would put in more money, and then also a probably better mental health for a lot of uh, not just Navy, but any military person that has been traumatized in any ways, from being at war or just being there for them. A
Yeah.
better.
That's perfect. Yeah, that goes well that you would say mental health because a lot of people say that's a big advocate thing for. And so the next question is, what mental health resources are available to the enlisted military and veterans that you knew of then?
Great question, because I don't know if there probably was, but I never reached out. I know they had, if you made under a certain amount, dollar wise, go to the VA hospital, and and you could get, you could have surgeries done for basically, they were free, but you had to make under a certain amount a year. So I would imagine there was probably something similar. I don't know, for mental health that they would have it. Well, I hate to, I'd just be guessing, but I would think there would be,
Yeah.
for sure, mental health would probably override. Even if you were making money, they would probably have something, but I just don't know.
Okay. So what were like maybe some of the challenges or barriers to seeking mental health support?
I couldn't answer that just because I never
You never really saw
reached.
anybody trying to get that.
Yeah, yeah. I never had any friends or myself. I never, went to the VA or to a military facility for to see about getting any mental
Oh.
health.
Okay, yeah. So the next question would have been like, did anybody ever talk about mental health when you were in the military? So,
Yeah, there was in boot camp. Yeah, so boot camp, you're in the military, but it's the way that they only want people that are going to be able to make it, and so quite a few we lost, I believe, out of 80 that started with our company, we lost nine to mental health that they couldn't take boot camp.
mm,
But so I don't know what that would, I
that's
don't know if they,
interesting still. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if they, if they were able to even see anybody, but they just got discharged, and I forget what it was called, but it was a mental discharge,
Okay.
because they couldn't make it through boot camp.
Right. Was drug use an issue when you were in the military?
No, no, nope, I didn't. I mean, again, with my friends and the the sailors and other service members that I hung around with, um, I would say no. I would say that there was quite a few of the older sailors and younger ones too, that because you can call alcohol a drug, and there was you would be out to sea for, you know 3 to 4 months and then come into a port, and it was definitely, people partied pretty hard because they would only be there for 3 or 4 days and then going back out to sea. So yeah, I would say alcohol, as far as it is a drug, was um, was an issue with some of the older sailors and then some of the real younger sailors.
Okay. And uh, was um, oh, did the military provide any drugs to soldiers?
No,
No. Okay.
no, they did do what they, if because they would try to give you a chance if you got in trouble with alcohol or whatever, if you got a DUI or you got something like that, they had, they would put them in a program and try to help them so that they wouldn't just immediately kick them out of the Navy. They tried to give them a chance, and they did have a drug. I think it was called Anabuse, and it was a pill, and you would take that and take it every day, and they had to go down, and the master at arms would watch them take the pill, and then if they tried to drink any alcohol, they would get sick. It would
Oh.
force them to get sick, so that but I don't know if they do that anymore, but they did try to work, they tried to get them into AA classes. I knew of one of my friends was actually, came into the service as, he had abused heavy drugs, but he had stopped and was in AA already, and I know he helped several people. So you had other military folks that would support, and then there was, I believe they even had meetings on the base, at our naval base. So
Hmm, that's interesting.
they did try to. They knew that they needed you to be sober and everything, so they did everything they could. But at some point, I did see a couple of sailors that did get kicked out of the Navy because of drugs. Because we had to take a urine test, and if they had drugs, like marijuana or anything in their system, or they had, you know, when they took it, they had a certain amount of alcohol in their system because they were already at work, and they did it, then then the drugs was, I believe, was almost an immediate discharge. I don't remember, so I can't say for
Mhm.
certain. But
Okay.
alcohol was more, they would try to work with you. And I think they actually gave you one shot for drugs to try to, but there was disciplinary actions, like you could get busted down in a rank, they could take your pay. Um, you'd go in front of the captains, what they call captain's mass.
The next question is, what is the stigma surrounding mental health support in the military?
I just don't know. I think, and they were really trying to help, instead of just getting rid of the folks that because a lot of times it was just too much for young or older people in boot camp. You got being away from the family for the first time, and you know you're getting screamed at, you're not getting any sleep deprivation. When you don't have any sleep, you go in there, and most people went in there by themselves. They didn't go in with a buddy program where you could go in with a friend. Boot camp, so you're around total strangers, and then you're just being yelled at constantly. So I think that he said that they were definitely trying to make it where they were uh, willing to try harder to keep folks that were struggling, you know, because a lot of it was they were just exhausted, because if you weren't marching, you were doing physical training, PT. If you weren't doing physical training, then you would be eating. If you weren't eating, then you were in class. And then wherever you went, you marched. And then if you did anything wrong, you were doing push-ups, sit-ups, whatever. So it was constant. You averaged in boot camp, you would average about 3.5 to 4 hours of sleep a night.
Hmm. Dang, okay. Very interesting. The next question is going to be, where did you see most of the money or funding go during your time in the military?
I think it was, I think a lot of my understanding, because I was in when Ronald Reagan was president, he really wanted to build the military back up. So they were, a lot of the money went to getting more um, military personnel to begin with, because you got to have people, but it also went to building up and building more ships, building more uh, higher aircraft, more technical and um, uh, just 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 better. I'll put it like this: better tools to be able to go in and win a battle. So we a lot went toward technology. A lot went towards I think I told you this before, that when I was in, they were just starting to be able to get satellite navigation, and it was very poor. You'd wait 2 hours, then you would get one, and a reading, and it may not be any good. You'd have to wait another 2 hours, and then it would be okay. So they worked. I think a lot of money went, as time went on. I don't know by the end of Ronald Reagan's term, but as time went on, they really just technology and personnel
Okay.
was the key, and more. And when I say technology, you've got to build the ships, but faster ships, fast frigates, destroyers that could protect the aircraft carriers and the cargo ships because you needed that in case you're under attack. You could have a fast frigate that was quick enough and a destroyer that would be able to protect you. And then of course, it also went, I believe they were they'd been around quite a few years, but they were putting more dollars into nuclear, as far as like nuclear subs, and so they don't ever need to refuel. They just come in and one crew leaves and another crew comes on. So nuclear technology as far as powering and energy.
Okay. All right, good. Next question is, do you know of any groups advocating for the military and veterans right now?
I don't. I should, but I don't.
Okay. Do you think it's easier now for soldiers in or out of the military to receive better mental health care than when you were in the military? And if so, like how much has changed? A lot or a little?
Well, I would, just from what I've read on different websites and different apps, news apps and stuff, and even sometimes when I do occasionally watch TV, I think that there is more mental awareness and understanding, to not just give up on an individual. So I think that I don't have anything to back it up other than what I've seen and heard, that it's better than it used to be, but I don't have, like, none of my friends, like I said earlier, I don't know of any specific individual that
Right.
would be able to tell you that. But just from what I've heard, I think you didn't hear a lot of that when I was in there. It was, if they had mental illness, then they would, you were basically, out at service. And then if you were out, it was a little bit more difficult back in those days, just from what I understood. But again, I don't have any stats to back that up.
Okay, last question. Should the military have more funding for mental health?
I think so, just because what happens is, even the military personnel that, you know a lot of folks go in because they don't have anything, they don't have a direction yet, so they may go in for 4 or 8 years, and they may not see any battle or anything, or they may, but and if they see, either way, the availability should be there to help them, if they need it. But the bigger thing that I think a lot of people don't look at is even folks that get out, what we would call lifers. They get out after 20-25 years, and some of them never saw any action. Some may have, but the reason I'm bringing that up is that I think it's forgotten that for a lot of these individuals went in when they were 17, 18 years old, and now they're getting out and they're 38, maybe in their early 40s, and they've never had, they don't know what it's like to be, not just taken care of. Because in the military, you're basically food, room, and board, and you're getting paid, and there's no, no worries. You're not, as long as you're doing your job and you're doing a good job, and as long as you're moving up in rank, then you're, you know, everything's fine. When you get out, you're out in the real world, which is a much different environment. And a lot of people, and I do know this because one individual I worked with about 15 years ago, he got out and said it took him about 2 years to really understand and realize how the private sector, how it worked out in the real world. So he really struggled, and it would have been nice because he was going through depressions and stuff, and because he didn't know what you needed to do, or to really get out and get
Right.
a job that wasn't that everything wasn't paid for, you weren't taken care of, because like I said, a lot of these folks went right from their mom and dads into the military, which was just like a big set of parents that were taking care of everything, as long as they did their job and their work. And it wasn't that the military is a very tough job, but it's also, like I said, it's completely different from going out and being in the world and and uh and working, because it's not just based off of um people in the military sometimes would just move up because of the amount of time they were in the military. They had to pass the tests and stuff, but you would see sometimes where they didn't make it on merit. They made it on the amount of time that they were in, that okay, well, they're ready, they passed this test, so they get to move on to the next, you know, rank, jump to E6, become a chief, whatever. But yeah,
Okay.
I think those would that's I rambled on there, but that's a lot of people forget about folks that spent their life basically, or half their life in the military, and then get out and have to adjust to the real world,
Right.
so to speak.
When did you get recruited or join the military?
Well, I actually joined the Marine Corps Reserve on April 23rd, 1958. And then I went active military in the Marine Corps on August 6th, 1958. And
Okay.
then I had a 4-year military obligation, plus I had a 6-year total at that time.
Right. Okay. Perfect. And now to the next question is, if you could advocate for military personnel or veterans in some way, how would you do it?
Well, I think that far too many of the veterans that made the sacrifices that they did. I think that they most certainly deserve as many benefits as they can get. As far as I think that at one time we did get college, help on college, help on your housing, help on, but now that's kind of what I would try to do, is maybe increase the benefits that you get after you serve your time in the military.
Okay, that's a good answer. The next question is, what mental health resources are available to like the enlisted military members or veterans that you know of?
Well, I really don't know about that, because it never affected me, but I would assume that that we are taking care of our mentally stable, because at one time they did have a lot of what they called shell shock, and now they call it PTSD.
Right.
And so, and to me, I think that in order to, I think Eleanor Roosevelt, she kind of had the right idea. She wanted when the men came back from seeing action, she wanted to put them on a separate island, and so that they could be kind of brought back into society
Right.
without just jumping right back into society where maybe some of their actions weren't really thought were too kind. Because maybe the mental instability of what actual war does to the person.
Right. Okay, good. And then the next question is, what were like maybe some challenges or barriers that maybe you saw to seeking mental health, if you ever saw that?
The barriers
Yeah,
for
ways that like it would be harder to get mental health, or like were there any of that in the military, or?
well, uh, yeah, I know of some of the unspoken words that were there when I was in the 4 years that I served. Some of those, uh, some of the things I saw weren't were kind of foreign to me. Because the way I grew up was a little different than what kind of went on in the military.
Okay. Good. Did anybody ever like talk about mental health when you were in the military?
Uh, no, not not really. Not in the circle I was in. We it was kind of like uh, we were, which when I was in, and before I went in, the Korean War created an 8 year military obligation for kids of draft eligibility, and then they changed it to 6 years just before I went in, and so it was uh, being joining like I did, and being drafted was two different ball games. So I did see a little bit of mental anxiety,
Right.
rather rather than just somebody saying, "Well, I got my 4 years to do or 3 years to do, and when I'm done, I'm out." You know,
Mm-hmm.
opposed to somebody that is going in and staying in for 18 years. So it just I never did really run into any real mental cases.
Okay. Okay. Good. The next question is, did the military provide like any drugs to the soldiers for anything?
We had what they called APC, and that was aspirin, and the APC stands for all-purpose capsule,
Hmm.
and that was the only drug that I ever saw uh, when I was in. But I didn't I didn't have any real injuries, so I didn't have a need for any kind of drug. And where I was at, uh, there was a few rumors that some of the places in the Far East they were talking about uh, maybe marijuana or some other stuff, but no, we weren't provided with any kind of drugs at all. Oh yeah, yeah, sure, yeah, yeah. We got cigarettes in our C rations, and when we did get them, but I mean, most of the time, the cigarettes were, the C rations. That was something that they did hand to you when the PXs weren't available, when you were on maneuvers or whatever, and it was where you would eat the old food that was maybe some of it was from the Korean War, some maybe some of it might have even been World War II, so, because some of it was old. But yeah, you usually did get a pack of cigarettes in there, and then of course cigarettes were only 10 cents a pack. When I was aboard ship, there was a dollar 10 a carton for filter tip cigarettes.
Mm. Okay, good. Um, so I know you just said that there was not really any drugs given to soldiers, but was there any other drug use when you were in the military from like people you knew?
No, there really wasn't. I mean, you know, once I got married, I was, I was living off base, and so I did. So I wasn't, I wasn't around anybody that would be doing drugs or, uh, I mean, yeah, alcohol. Yeah, it was there. We could, every base had a men's club where you could get your beer. And then, but there was no drug use at all where I was.
Okay,
The whole time I was in, I never saw any drug use.
okay. And then the next question is, where did you see like most of the money or funding go during your time in the military?
Uh, well, I think that a certain part of uh, the money that I saw, it was all kind of with the draft. They tried to treat us, for what we were making there on a monthly paycheck. They tried to give us as many benefits they could, as far as whether you were single or married. Like they would have a big picnic for you where they would serve steak and potatoes and fried chicken, anything that you might want. And then if you were married, they would even have the parties for the married couples, where they would spend the money to do that. But as far as me, I guess I wasn't in long enough. I was in 4 years, but I never worried about where the money was being spent, or I didn't concern myself with it. You know.
Right. Okay. The next question is, do you know of any groups that are advocating for military and veterans right now?
Uh, no, I know they're out there because I saw it on the news where the actual veterans themselves, and some people are because uh, they want to make sure that we don't take the rights from that the veterans have now, that they don't take them away from them. So they need to be stable as far as being able to go get fixed up, because that's what it was all about. Was if you did your time, they felt like you deserved. If you came out of there with a honorable discharge, uh, you deserved certain benefits, and that's what the veterans' rights are. Is so. Yeah, I'm not familiar with one group that is doing that right now, Luke.
Okay, good. Do you think that it is easier now for soldiers like in or out in the military to do you think they receive better mental health now than when you were in the military? And if so, like how much has changed? Like a lot or a little?
Well, I think that they might have. Of course, when you can figure the cost of living now compared to the cost of living when I went in, and even when I got out in '62, uh, I think that there are more benefits because they get a bigger pay than what we got when we were in. But you got to remember that now these kids that are going in now, they don't have they're not draftees. They're all volunteers. In other words, they're gladiators. They're doing it for the money, and some of them, the majority are still doing it for the country, for the freedom of the United States. But now they're all volunteers. We don't have any more draftees going in. So I think it would whatever they can do to retain the military, that they do benefit a little better than what we had it when I was in.
Okay, good. Well, let's ask one more question. Do you was there when you were in the military, was there stigma around mental health support? Meaning, did people feel like they couldn't go to mental health support because they felt like the military may kick them out or something like that, or they felt, or go ahead.
Well, I'm not saying that it didn't happen, because I think that because when you're in the service, the Article 134, that's a general article, and so anything that you do falls underneath that article, and so in other words, you don't have any constitutional rights when you're in the military. You have Article 134, which it 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 kind of encompasses anything that you might do, or if they do find you, as a problem child, or as a troublemaker, well then Article 134 comes in to play, and out you go.
Right.
So I don't think as far as the mental part of it, I just, like I said, I didn't see a lot of that mental. Although boot camp might have been tough on a lot of young kids, because once they got in the Marine Corps, they I don't know what they were thinking, why they would sign up, and then once they got in there and they found out that it was a little more tougher than what they expected, and that's kind of where I was at too. You don't expect some of this stuff to happen, but I don't know if some of them did claim mental incapacity, that or even they did almost anything they could to try to get out of it.
Right.
But yeah, that's about all I ever saw, and I didn't hear of any of that either. So I'm not sure, but that's about all.
Hi, my name's Ella.
Hi guys, I'm Senior Airman Daniel.
How long have you been in the military?
I've been in the military for 3 years and about 3 months.
What's your current job in the Air Force?
Current job in the Air Force is a nuclear weapons specialist.
What kind of mental health resources or support are available to you in the military?
So a couple of mental health and support things that we have are the chaplain, which is a totally confidential thing. Can't spread our business or anything like that. We also have our first shirt that we can go to. We have True North, and then there's tons of other things, like we can go to any immediate supervisors, leadership, anything like that. But the only total confidentiality that we have would be with our chaplain.
Do you feel comfortable speaking to someone about your mental health? Why or why not? What are some challenges or barriers with seeking mental health support?
So I haven't had much struggles with mental health in my career, but what I have found that is if I was to have any problems with mental health, approaching anybody with the situation would be difficult, considering that I have obligations that I have to take care of for my job, as well as duties that I have to comply with every day. And having these struggles being taken care of would prevent me from being able to complete my task at hand.
Do you think they would treat you differently if they knew you were struggling mentally?
I think the Air Force tries to preach a very helpful and positive way of mental health, but at the end of the day, I think it's kind of like most people find it as a weakness or a soft point. So we as military members try to ignore the fact of any mental health problems and push it off and kind of just take on the role as to, well, like, I'll be okay and I'll work through it and I don't really need to go to anybody with this problem, because at the end of the day, the job has to get done.
Are mental health check-ins a regular part of your service experience, or are they only done in certain situations?
I would say they're only done in certain situations. I would say that it's not every day or every week somebody's coming and asking me, hey, what's going on in your life? Are you okay? Where's your mental health at? It's more of like a, if they see me slipping up in my job, if they see my performance taken down, then that's when they're going to be like, is there something up with you? Is something wrong? And even then, it's still hard to come up as a man and be like, I am dealing with this, because like I said before, just those obligations will be taken from me and I'll kind of feel like I'm letting them down.
Wow. How do your fellow airmen or superiors view mental health issues? Is there stigma around asking for help?
So personally, what I've experienced in the Air Force in my time in, I've experienced that most people kind of joke about it. They kind of joke around it. I've known a few, like me personally, if a friend or an airman was to come up to me with a mental health issue, then I would try to seek out help for them. But personally, I feel like most members in the Air Force kind of make a joke out of it, like kind of like, oh man, I hate my life kind of deal. Oh man, like this sucks, man, I'm super sad. And they kind of just put it on a comedy view, but overall, I don't think anybody truly wants to be the one that stands out for having mental health issues. It's kind of looked at as kind of like an embarrassing aspect, instead of trying to take the time to say, I need help and I want to be taken seriously. It's kind of I won't acknowledge it, and when it is acknowledged, I'll make a joke of it.
Okay. Did you ever feel that seeking mental health support might hurt your career or reputation in the Air Force?
For my job, 100% it would hurt my career and reputation in the Air Force, because if I was to lack mental health, then I wouldn't be able, or I wouldn't be allowed permission to perform my work duties, which would not let me progress in my career rank-wise or knowledge-wise, and it would just cripple me as a airman trying to come up.
Okay. Have you ever felt let down by the system, like you weren't heard, believed, or prioritized?
I think in the military, sometimes a common phrase between all branches are just shut up and color. And that's kind of a thing of like, I tell you to do something, I don't need it questioned, I don't need any back talk, I just need the job to get done. And for a lot of people, I feel at times that no matter how we feel about a certain situation or about where our thought process is, like there's no time to kind of let our emotions talk, because there's a job that has to get done and we don't have any time for questions, which I think truly does make certain people, and honestly most of us for that aspect, kind of feel like we're not as important as we feel like we should be, because we're not letting our voices be heard. We're kind of just being told, hey, you can complain about it later, but for now we're gonna get the job done.
What does good mental health support look like to you, and have you ever experienced it?
So good mental health support to me is under the radar. It's something that isn't brought up in a public eye's view. It's something that if I ask for mental health, then I'm able to receive that help, and I'm able to have somebody by my side without having it being brought up to everybody I work with. So that way it's not kind of brought up as a joking way. It's more I'm taken more seriously, and I'm receiving the help that I need without being a laughing stock of my unit. So it's kind of a mix between good help will be helping me, but behind closed doors, without anyone knowing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Have there been any programs or resources in the Air Force that have made the biggest positive difference for you?
That's a good one. I will say a couple programs in the Air Force that has helped me a lot, or at least made me feel like I'm not alone, is kind of like we have a couple programs to deal with different foundations such as Trails In. We have one at our base at FE Warren, and it kind of deals with different airmen coming together from different career fields and different places, and we're kind of allowed to all be together and share different experiences with each other, share different job-related talks and stuff like that. And we're also able to do activities with each other. And the same aspect kind of goes for the chaplain hosts a luncheon every month, every one time a month. So he'll invite everybody from the base to come and have a free lunch with him. And if you're having any struggles, then you're able to go and talk to him and even set up a meeting with him so you can go and talk to him in your spare time.
That's really cool. How accessible are mental health services? Are there wait lists, limitations, or eligibility criteria that can make access harder?
So I can't speak for every Air Force installation, but I can speak for FE Warren, and I will say that we are given a lot of different opportunities and different programs and different hands reaching out that we can go to. So it's really nice knowing that if I was in a corner and I had nowhere else to go, then I have multiple opportunities to go and contact somebody or get in touch with a different type of person for any mental health issues that I can. And it's really nice knowing that there's not really a wait limit. If I was to go in today, if I was to call the hotline and say, hey, I really need some help right now, I'm going through it, then somebody would be there to talk to me and help guide me through it and help me find the right solution. So that way I'm not making any mistakes that I would regret.
Yeah, and they would, if you called them today, they'd be able to get you in today.
They would. So at minimum, if they couldn't get me in today, then there's a hotline that we can call that is 24/7, and there's always somebody on the phone that's willing to sit there and talk to you through your problems and willing to sit there and at least set up an appointment and try to understand, okay, this person needs help. I'm going to put him down on the chart. I'm going to make it aware that he needs help, but I'm not going to kind of put him on blast.
Yeah. Do you think people utilize that hotline?
I would say that I would really hope that people utilize it, and I would think that people utilize it because I know personally people that I've worked with and people that are friends to me that have went through mental health struggles and that have went to the chaplain or have went to mental health clinic even. And I know that personally that has kind of crippled them a little bit in our career field. But at the end of the day, to me, what's important is instead of sometimes saying the job needs to get done, saying I need help. So yeah. I think that that's more important sometimes.
Definitely, yeah. If you could speak directly to the leaders in the military, what would you ask them to do differently?
One thing that I'd ask them to do differently in the military is kind of look at us on the aspect of, yes, there's different ranks in the military, and yes, we should have respect towards the higher ranks, but at the end of the day, I think we're all people. I think we all signed the same paper, and we all raised our right hand to do our nation a service. So at the end of the day, I think that we all need to be treated as such. We all need to be held to the same standard. We all need to be treated with the same dignity. I would just ask that they change the roles of the higher ups and the roles of the higher ranks, kind of just telling the younger airmen in our nation to kind of shut up and color. I don't think that that's right. I think that there should be more inclusion in the Air Force. There should be more understanding in the Air Force, and I truly believe that to make it a better Air Force and a better military for our nation, I think that there needs to be a why behind the what. I think instead of giving every airman a task and not giving them a why behind that, kind of doesn't give them the determination and motivation that they need to complete every task with their best ability. So I think as time goes on and our leaders of the Air Force kind of start giving airmen that bigger why, that will further then allow us as younger airmen in the Air Force to feel more motivated and more inspired to do a good job.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, this is the last question. Do you think that there is currently enough resources for mental health support in the military? Why or why not?
I currently think that there are enough resources in the military, and it's a little bit of a I do and I don't situation. I think that there definitely is enough great resources for us to use. I think that there's very easily obtainable numbers to call, people to see, emails to send. There's plenty of resources that we can take, but I think the stigmatism of going to those people
And taking that first step in the military is very frowned upon. And
Yeah.
even though there's courses and there's classes, I think that it's not really speaking to the younger generation of the Air Force when we're telling them, hey, it is okay if you have a problem. It is okay for you to be human, and it is okay to go seek out help. And I think if we could just get that message across in a better way, rather than just having a bunch of people sit in a classroom and have somebody talk to you, I think that the message will stick way better when you have someone to talk with, and you have someone to share experiences with and tell you, hey, I've been in your shoes, and it's okay to seek out help. It doesn't make you weak, it doesn't make you frowned upon, it makes you a man. So I think that's very important.
Yeah. So you think that would help reduce the stigma if it was less? Is that how you guys kind of treat mental health? Is you're in a classroom and they just kind of lecture to you?
Yeah, 100%. We have kind of like classrooms and classes and different type of briefings that we have that kind of preach these different resources that we can go for, these different people that we can go see, and why mental health is important. But honestly, I think our younger generation doesn't grasp onto the idea enough of, if you really do have a problem, that it's okay to go see someone. I think that we more make a laughing stock of the situation of like, hey, we're just all in this boring classroom trying not to fall asleep. And at the end of the day, I don't think anybody truly grasps that message. But I think it really is important for, especially in our young Air Force, to know that if you're going through something, you're not alone, and it's okay to go through these. It's only human. So
that's great. Do you think there's a way to reduce stigma around mental health in the military?
I think overall, time will always tell. Time will always be our best friend in the military, because as we grow with time, we innovate, we renovate, we upgrade, and we're becoming better airmen at the end of the day, but through time, and we don't know what the future holds for us. But I do truly believe that that stigma will fade as long as we find a way to give our younger airmen a better message, as long as we find a way to touch them in a different way that's not, okay, let's all sit in this classroom and let me just talk to you about it, and then I'll let you go on about your day. It's more of like, even if it has to be a one-on-one, like what can I speak to you about? What can we find common grounds about? What have you been through? Let me tell you what I've been through, and then let's talk about it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, hey, thank you for talking with me.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Hi, my name is Luke, and I'm a student at CSU, and I interviewed the Navy veteran, and he talked about how they would give soldiers medicine to make them throw up if they drank alcohol ever, and I also talked to the Marine veteran who talked about how they would be given cigarettes and that all-purpose drug also. And so back then they would try to help these people by just throwing medicine at them, and this tactic has not changed, as shown by the interviews with someone more recently in the military, where they still throw pills in the direction of these problems instead of trying to help the root causes. And so suppose they are not making them take these drugs, also in that case the soldiers themselves are, which could be why so many undeployed soldiers have like cannabis dependence or drug use problems, as shown by the study that looked at drug use over time among never deployed U.S. Army Reserve and National Guard soldiers. And they showed that NDE, which is a their non-deployment emotions of the soldiers, may be preoccupied with the thoughts about never being deployed, and may also experience shame-related feelings of worthlessness, perhaps resulting in a desire to escape through drug use across a variety of samples. And this has shown that greater shame proneness is associated with greater likelihood of problems with substance use, and higher use of adaptive emotions regulation strategies, such as self-blaming and catastrophizing. And also, another stat from there is that 15.6% of National Guard soldiers experience a drug use disorder in their life, despite there being a strict zero-tolerance policy. And so this can show that this all derives from mental health and the shortcomings of programs and funding and much more, which is why this group needs to have so much advocacy, shown also by how it has changed over the years, and with an increase in cannabis legislation, and cannabis dependence is rising for people with chronic pain, and the group with the most chronic pain are veterans. And so drugs are not always the solution to these problems, when we should be addressing advocating for better education and or funding in mental health regarding veterans and military personnel, not drugs, but these lifestyles and these important skills that will help them outside of the military, which will benefit this group of veterans personnel the most. The 2 studies that are referred in this are also going to be in the description. And so while the tremendous strides have been made in the right direction of advocacy, it can still fade, and so will all the hard work done in the past. We must continue to advocate for military and veterans even when others do not. And hopefully these interviews you just heard have inspired you to go out and advocate for military and veterans, even if you are not part of this group, because this group's agency can be limited, as we talked about in those interviews. And so, like, people who have disabilities and stuff like that. And so other people advocating for them can be a big help. And so if you are a veteran or military personnel, I hope you can connect with the things said in the interviews and connect you to more veterans, and also resources that can be so important, since this is what this advocacy is about, is bringing more veterans together and also bringing more awareness to problems that military veterans think are the issues, not necessarily us. And so some of the trends that I saw within the interview is like not knowing some of the supports, and some of those resources are I Care from the VA, Department of Veterans Affairs, the VA, Disabled Americans Veterans, Wounded Warriors Project, National Veterans Foundation, Tammy Duckworth, a senator, Fisher House Foundation Veterans of Foreign Wars, Healing Warriors Program, Adult Learning and Veterans Services, and the Salute Veterans Honor Society. And all these sources can be found in the description of the video also, if you would like to check it out. And so don't be afraid also to send a message to change legislation against funding for veterans and military personnel, which is in a post within this YouTube channel where you can just copy and paste that message and send it to the senator. So thank you to all the people that took the time to be interviewed, and also to those who found this video through the flyer. And so thank you, and advocate for military and veterans. Have a good day.